Have you ever looked at someone and judged them before knowing their story? It's an instinct we all have, one that sometimes feels as natural as breathing. But what happens when that snap judgment turns out to be not just wrong, but embarrassingly, earth-shatteringly wrong? Claire Thompson, a retired school teacher in her mid-50s, found out the hard way one summer afternoon when she dialed 911 to report her new neighbor, Malik Carter. What she didn't expect was that the man she was so suspicious of was not just her neighbor, but also her landlord. Let's rewind to where it all began. Claire was the type of person who loved her little slice of suburban life. She had moved into the neighborhood nearly a decade ago after her divorce, seeking a fresh start in a cozy rental home that she could call her own. She had her routines, her gardening club, and a cat named Muffin, who was arguably the queen of the household. Life was predictable, just the way Claire liked it. When the for sale sign went up on the house next door, Claire felt a twinge of unease. Change wasn't her favorite thing, but she reassured herself. Maybe the new neighbor would be a sweet older couple, or a young family with kids who would wave at her when they passed by. When she first saw Malik unloading boxes from a U-Haul, she froze. Malik was tall, fit, and casually dressed in a t-shirt and jeans. He looked young, maybe in his early 30s, and Claire couldn't help but notice his confident demeanor. She also noticed his skin, dark like rich mahogany. Claire wouldn't call herself prejudiced, not at all. She prided herself on being open-minded. She had friends of all kinds. Her hairstylist was black. Her book club included a woman from Ghana, and she always made a point to talk about how much she loved diversity. But something about Malik made her uneasy. Maybe it was the way he glanced around the neighborhood, or how he seemed to take a special interest in the other properties on the street. Over the next week, Claire found herself watching Malik more closely. Every time she saw him, her imagination ran wild. Why was he always outside? Was he casing the neighborhood? Why did he drive a modest car yet seem so comfortable? Her unease grew with every day, until one afternoon when she saw Malik talking to a group of younger men near his driveway. Claire's anxiety spiked. It felt like a scene from a crime show. Was he dealing drugs? Was she in danger? Claire decided to act. She didn't knock on Malik's door to introduce herself or ask any questions. No. Claire grabbed her phone and called the police. She described Malik in a hushed tone, making sure to mention that he looked out of place and suspicious. The operator listened, assured Claire that officers would check it out, and ended the call. Minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up. Claire watched from her window, heart pounding with both excitement and guilt. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she saw the officers approach Malik, who looked more confused than anything. The exchange didn't last long. One officer spoke to Malik while the other checked some papers. And then, something shifted. The officers seemed relaxed, even friendly, before they drove away. Claire thought it was over, but then one of the officers walked up her driveway and rang her bell. Muffin darted under the couch as Claire hesitantly opened the door. "Ma'am," the officer began. "Just so you know, the man you reported isn't just your neighbor. He owns this property. He's your landlord." If the earth could have swallowed her whole at that moment, Claire would have gladly let it. She stammered an apology, something about just being concerned and not knowing. But the officer gave her a polite nod and left. Meanwhile, Malik had gone back to his moving boxes, shaking his head, but otherwise unfazed. He had seen this kind of thing before, more times than he cared to admit. Claire spent the next few days avoiding Malik entirely. She felt awful. Not just because she had been caught in her mistake, but because she knew deep down that her judgment of him had been unfair, even ridiculous. But avoiding him wasn't going to make it go away. Finally, Claire decided to do what her mother always told her: own up to her mistakes. She walked next door, carrying a batch of her famous lemon bars as a peace offering. When Malik opened the door, she could barely get the words out. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I shouldn't have called the police. I misjudged you." Malik looked at her, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then, to her relief, he smiled. "Apology accepted," he said simply. "But next time, just come and talk to me, okay? I don't bite." Over time, Claire and Malik's relationship took a surprising turn. He didn't hold her mistake against her, and she began to see him for who he truly was: a kind, hard-working man with a sharp sense of humor and a deep sense of fairness. Malik had built his real estate portfolio from scratch, starting with nothing but a dream and a relentless work ethic. He was proud of his success, but not boastful about it. The neighborhood barbecue Malik hosted a few months later sealed the deal. It was the first time the entire block had come together in years. There was laughter, music, and enough food to feed a small army. Claire found herself standing next to Malik at the grill, marveling at how easy it was to talk to him now. "I guess I owe you more than just an apology," she said. "I learned a lot about myself through this whole thing." Malik laughed, flipping a burger. "We all make mistakes," he said. "It's what you do after that counts." The story of Claire and Malik became a favorite among their neighbors, a reminder that first impressions aren't always right, and that sometimes the person you least expect can end up teaching you the most. So the next time you find yourself jumping to conclusions about someone, take a step back. You might just find a friend and a lesson in the process.